Greetings, Zimbabwe. My name is Jacob Ngarivhume, President of Transform Zimbabwe and leader of the July 31st movement, the anti-corruption watchdog that is in the making and in the formation in this country. What has been the key drive is basically the personal conviction we have, the very strong conviction we have that we need to take this country in the right direction. And we are also not blind to the fact that Zimbabwe is a rich country, endowed with mineral resources, endowed with perfect human resources. Zimbabweans are hardworking. We have the most educated people in the region. We have got people who are generally largely peaceful and so on. So the question has been, what is going wrong in our country? And what do we need to do as Zimbabweans, as citizens? Not even as political parties, not even as this and that, but as citizens, what do we need to do? And this is when we got to the point that we need a call that puts Zimbabweans together, irrespective of their political affiliation, irrespective of who you are, irrespective of where you come from, your religious background, and so on. And then we said, number one enemy in this country is corruption. Corruption cuts across the political divide, cuts across all these divisions that we have as a people. But we are all united by the fact that corruption has killed this country, has ravaged us. It has become so systematic and systemic that we need to confront it. And it was that persuasion which called us to make the call for the July 31st to say we need to come together and deal with the issue of corruption, irrespective of who you are. At one time, I think since 1980, we had a very solid and sound education system, then ran by Cambridge. The curriculum was excellent and things were moving on very well. And as a result, the government then in 1980 had a very good education policy, education for all and things like that. And then Zimbabwe made huge strides and inroads in educating its population. So that we give credit way back then. But then things took a nosedive, and I think there are many factors that we can speak around that. And then we got where we are, where currently education has lost value. If I were to add, we are just maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us here. If we were to put in the education qualifications we have, to not the basket, nema certificates pano. But honestly, who is working amongst us? None. And you then realize that. And I think the problem also is when you begin to have top government officials, the learned, the rich, and so on, when they started taking their children away from our education system, taking them to Singapore, China, America, Britain, and so on, that's when we had the problem. That's where the problem actually escalated to the point that none of them have their children in our schools where we receive our education. None of them go to the University of Zimbabwe, where I was for years. None of them go to the Midlands University or NAST University. So they don't then appreciate the challenges that we face as a people in these universities and institutions. As a result, our education system has gone to the dogs. Very sad. From an education system that was so excellent to an education system that has got no teachers. I went around schools in one of my outreaches. We went around schools. Children are by themselves. Teachers are on strike. There are no books. There are no ablution facilities. They can't cope with the COVID pandemic. It's a shame. But I think largely it's due to misgovernance. It's due to that lack of concentration simply because your child is not in any of these schools. And that is where our problem is as a people and as a nation. Corruption has killed our health system. It has killed our education system. If you look at the health system, again, it comes back to this matter whereby none of our leadership gets medical attention from Parenyatwa that you are just talking about. They all fly to China. We know it is not a secret. They go to China, they go to Britain, they go all over the place. And so there is no time for them to devote resources to improving Parenyatwa. You have made reference to the issue of the maternity wards, across the country. We have Bianehanda just across here. And there's Edith, which ravaged my heart. During that strike, then a woman who apparently was from a church, Mujeke mission, Mujeke, and then she comes and says, okay, nurses are on strike. let me take over and start. She just starts helping women. And then she does it so indecently because there are lots of them who are coming to seek that medical attention, and then there's a strike, and then she starts helping them by, you know, in a very indecent way, actually. Because I got there, and, you know, women would be naked in the courtyard, and it was so embarrassing and so inhuman. And then the first lady gets there, she goes to that place. Instead of her facilitating the reopening of that facility, she actually gives money, food, and donations to this woman who is helping. It's bizarre. You can't give money to a woman who is using unethical methods and means to help. When women are dying, some need operation, she has no capacity to do any of that. And then she goes and gives money to her and thanks her. So in other words, what is our moral value system is completely corroded and eroded. And all this is coming to the fact that we've been so corrupt as a people and as a nation that we've looted everything to our education, from our education system to our health system. And you look at how figures are inflated in the health system. You know, the drugs corruption cases is a case in point. And what has been done? What has been recovered? Nothing. But figures are inflated. They use it for their own personal gain. And that is precisely the problem we have in this country. I have no choice but to tell the truth. And the truth is that the judiciary in this country has been captured by the political elites. It has been completely captured. You have just referred to the case of the ladies who have been in and out of prison. You know, the latest case they are charged against is that they violated COVID regulations by addressing the press. None of the press people are arrested, and then these ladies are arrested. But meanwhile, we have been watching, I watch ZTV, you know, when my BP is pretty low and I think I can actually manage, I watch the news. You can't help but, you know, you see the president with thousands of press people, with thousands of villagers. This other day was in Nyamandlovu with hundreds of people. None of them masked, very few of them in masks, and so on. But then, of course, selectively, if the MDC hold their Mashonaland West meeting with only 7 people, they are arrested for violating COVID rules. Themba Mliswa holds a press conference, he's arrested, but fortunately for him, in less than 24 hours, he's out. We called for citizens to speak out against corruption. And then I was arrested, 45 days in prison. You know, in the most horrible section D of our prisons. It was horrible for simply speaking out against corruption. And I'm still going to the course. I report 3 times a week. It has been reduced now to once a week. I'm actually coming from Waterfalls Police Station right now. This is where I was coming from. You know, this is where I'm coming from. For calling for the right thing. But then, and I've been in and out of court. We've been trying to say, can the case be tried so that we get our passports back? Nothing. Nothing for nearly a year now. This country has been ruined and killed by corruption, Mr. President. You know, this Zimbabwe has been killed by corruption. Corruption is our #1 enemy. But it's not too late to fix this situation. One of the quickest ways that you can do to fix this situation, Mr. President, is you can actually leave a very good legacy by maybe stepping down and allow this nation to rebuild and start all over. You know, we can put a government that puts together people from your party, opposition political parties, civil society, ordinary citizens, and we can work things out in this country. It doesn't need to have me in there, but other people, other eminent Zimbabweans can converge and say, what do we do for our nation so that we move it right? That's one of the first things that I would tell him. And then I will also tell him that, you know, you need to promote a liberation legacy which acknowledges Zimbabweans as citizens, irrespective of who they are and where they are coming from. Unfortunately, the legacy that they've been building and promoting is that you need to be ZANU-PF to be a leader of this country. You need to have gone to war. Now we are seeing people who were born in 1960 dying now, and we realize that by 1980 they were only 15, 20 years. 1964, they were only 15, 20 years and 18 years. Clearly they did not fight in the war, but they still want to promote that if you are a hero in this country, You must have gone through the ZANU-PF system and have fought this, the liberation struggle. This you need to change, Mr. President. Zimbabwe is for us all. Zimbabwe deserves better. We're endowed with the mineral resources which God has blessed us with. What is happening to all that? Why are you promoting hate and divisions in this country? Zimbabwe can be rebuilt if you stand up and say no to corruption. But that has not been done so far. And one day you stand up and genuinely rebuild corruption and genuinely calls on the people, an independent commission to deal with the issue of corruption. Corruption can be dealt with, and Zimbabweans like me can also enjoy the fruits of our labor and the fruits of the God-given gift of the riches that this country has.